What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? I'm in Los Angeles, going to be on with Colin for the next 4 days. And I got here at about 3 o'clock, and I recorded a podcast that for the audio version, we're going to have podcasts, and then Greg Olson we had on, who's actually calling the Bears-Bills game. We recorded with him last week. That video will be out later today. And then I realized the Bears were playing the Bills, and Caleb Williams is going to play. So I'm like, well, I got to do something on that. So I realized that I had to wait a little bit. Luckily, with preseason, Caleb plays, the starters play, and like 2 series that he could just record. I think probably just starting the second quarter as I'm recording this. But I will give some thoughts on at the start about what we just witnessed, which was obviously a good thing if you are a Bears fan. Talk about Jackson Dart, Kyle Shanahan and his kicker, the Rams and their quarterback situation, something on the Cardinals, Howie Roseman makes a trade, the Colts, anytime that you have to decide on a quarterback in the middle or to late August, not a great sign. So we will dive into some football, but before we do, I got to tell you about my friends. I got to tell you about my partners, the official ticketing app of this podcast, GameTime, best ticketing app in America. A lot of you guys have been DMing me. You guys have bought tickets to, college football is here this week, then officially the following week. The NFL is here. You want to go to one of these games, you can search by the team, you can search by the stadium, concerts, comedy shows. You can search by the arena, the act, the game. It does not get any easier. I've used it from concerts to football games to basketball games. I've been to a hockey game. I have been to so many events because of these guys. So here's the thing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code JOHN, that's JOHN, for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I think for the majority of players and the majority of situations, you judge the preseason on, was that positive or was that negative? Was that good or was that bad? Because there's so many different variables. It's hard to put this into context. Who's game planning, who's not game planning, how many starters are out there, how many starters are not out there. And then there was Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson making Ben Johnson made his debut last week, but Caleb Williams didn't play. So the debut of this offensive mastermind and his quarterback who was drafted number 1 overall. And listen, there have been a lot of stories flying out the last 3 weeks. Fair or not, him missing the net, him being overwhelmed by Ben Johnson calling practices sloppy. Unless you're there, and even if you were there, it's like, listen, you're just going to have a take, and whether it's fair or not, it's just a reality. And then there was the game. They're playing the Bills. Caleb comes out. The dude muffs the kickoff, so he's got to go to lead a scoring drive, basically the entire field, and then he was awesome. And the knock on Caleb last year was the timing in the NFL is a lot different than college. You got to get rid of the ball. Playing hero ball is not something, honestly, if you look at the last 10, 20 years, Russell Wilson was able to make a 4 or 5 year stretch of a career out of it, but for the most part, it's not a way to play. And Ben Johnson's offense is all about timing. So to me, the number one question with Caleb Williams, can he play on time? Can he play in rhythm? And listen, he played 2 drives, but it's really the first drive. Ball snapped, ball out of his hands. Ball snapped, ball out of his hands. You're like, holy shit. That was the biggest question mark because we know Caleb has the big arm. So the big explosive play to commit over the middle of the field, you see him throw the 90-mile-an-hour strike. But the key to playing at a high level, and Bears fans know this, do you know what Mitch Trubisky could not do? He could not layer a throw. He didn't have touch. And it was the reason a guy drafted really high. And listen, I'm just using him as an example because he played for the Bears. There are a ton of players that have been drafted high that struggle in the NFL that can't layer the throw. Over the linebacker, under the safety. And that is a way, if you're going to play quarterback in this league, you've got to be able to do it, especially in rapid speed. When, your first option's taken, he's your second option. Loveland coming across the middle of the field. and Caleb hit him in stride. I know the touchdown pass is like the sexiest play of the drive, but to me, that was the most important pass. And it was like getting rid of the ball. And even on the second drive, there was a pressure. Rome ended up dropping the ball, but he got rid of the ball quickly. And to me, that is the whole thing if this thing is going to work. Because Ben Johnson's offense and Ben Johnson as a play caller became a star with Jared Goff. Jared Goff can't move much faster than me or you. So his entire game is predicated on letting the coach scheme guys open and doing what he tells me quickly. Because I can't run away from anyone. Caleb can. But there's a balance of like every once in a while we're going to need you to do it. And there was a play on the first drive where he scrambled away. I bet Ben Johnson might even say throw the ball away, but he hit the wide receiver pretty low and he dropped the ball. Whatever. I mean, it wasn't his fault. The guy comes unblocked or guys break through the offensive line. You got to make a play with your feet. But there are going to be a ton of plays throughout, especially week 1 against Minnesota, when you're playing a really good defense and an excellent defensive coordinator, where you got to do what Ben Johnson wants you to do, but the key to it is getting rid of the ball. And Caleb did that tonight. So to me, it's like, I've seen Caleb make explosive plays, and it's exciting. But the number one thing, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm excited about is like under a couple seconds, under a second, ball is out of his hands. Because they got DJ Moore, they got Rome, they got multiple tight ends. I mean, the guy they just drafted 10th, and Greg Olsen said this, when you draft the tight end 10th overall or really high in the draft, you're not just expecting him to be a good tight end. You're expecting him to be an extremely productive player in the passing game. A guy that can essentially operate as like your number 2 wide receiver. I mean, there's a decent chance that as this season goes, that it goes DJ Moore's their 1, Loveland is their 2, and Rome is their 3. And you saw Rome drop the ball. Listen, I'm a Rome guy. I think he'll be fine. It's one pass. But if Caleb can play on time and play in rhythm, we know this offense works because we've just seen it. And what did the Bears do this offseason? They fixed the interior of their offensive line because Caleb is not 6'6", so he is going to need to step up into throws. And Sean Payton made a living off doing this in New Orleans with Drew Brees. They were good at center and they were good at the guard spots because stepping up for a shorter quarterback is really, really important. And protecting up the middle of the field is key. And now with so many of these teams having good interior pass rushers and their 2 guards and center, are not only highly paid, but they're good players. And we know their offensive skill guys have a lot of talent. We know Caleb has a lot of talent. But you have a drive like that, I'm not going to poo-poo the excitement that's going to come out of Chicago over the next 24, 48 hours. Because it should be all the preseason shit no one cares about. Because I say this all the time. Coaches do this like, hey, he doesn't understand. He's not doing it right at practice. He struggles in the meeting room. Then he goes on the field and does well. That's all fans care about. How do you do? It's why that Shedeur Sanders, no one's going to care what Stefanski says. Well, this, that. It's like, we saw it on the field. Fair or not. And listen, so for all the different stories coming out in the preseason, people, the media that were there, even a fan that were there, obviously the coaches and players have a better feel for it. But for those of us that are not there, it's like, this is kind of weird. It's been kind of crazy. All that kind of goes out the window after that performance. And listen, I was critical last week. It's like, hey, you're new with this guy. How come you're not playing him in this preseason game? I kind of also understood it was a nationally televised game. If it doesn't go well, but same deal here. Nationally televised game Sunday night, kind of a muscle flex by Fox. Just to remind everybody else, and I bet the NFL loves doing this during the preseason. They used to have I don't know if they have a Monday night game anymore, but they would have a couple Monday night games, have a Sunday night game, just to flex their muscle, a game that after about 10 minutes, it's no one even knows who's playing, and it'll do 11 million people watching. I would imagine the ratings for those first 2 drives with Caleb Williams in the game against the Bills, who were just, been in 2 AFC championships in the last 4 years in the playoffs every year, even if Josh isn't playing, it had to be pretty freaking high. So that was cool. That was fun. And their excitement is going to be justified. This is, at the end of the day, we're talking about football. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets. Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back, baby. Think you know the game? Put your college football knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. From live betting during the rivalry week odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action from the kickoff to the final whistle. Here's the thing. We got a top 25 matchup happening this week in Ireland. Iowa State taking on K-State. I've been listening to a lot of people. My guy Josh Pate, Iowa State, a little bit of a sleeper this year. You can get them right now. Odds are subject to change. Kind of like Iowa State +3 this week. Across the pond, Iowa State +3. I think I'm going to hammer it. So here's something special for first-timers. New customers, bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. And for as ugly as things have been in Chicago, and here's what I'll also say about Ben Johnson. In theory, it was like, this job is a no-brainer. This job is kind of complicated. I mean, let's face it. You're working for Kevin Warren, who is like this business guy, yet he kind of gets to run the organization because the McCaskey family is doing who knows what. You get a GM, which in theory everyone likes, but his track record's pretty iffy, that you have to work with. And you get a quarterback that was just drafted number 1 overall that is not a project, but is going to bring a lot of scrutiny because he's extremely famous. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. We've been talking about him since he was 18 years old. It's just, there's a lot going on. And no one argued about Ben Johnson, his offensive acumen, when he ran the show for Dan Campbell in Detroit. But you become the head coach. The microscope's a little brighter. It's crazy because Chicago, I would say for the last 15 years, for the most part, hasn't been that good. Yet they're talked about all the time. They're this massive market. The city loves football. This little team up the road, having been there last week in Chicago, and just seeing how the geographics of I never spent much time in Chicago. So you see that Green Bay's right up the road, this little ass town. They always beat their ass. Minnesota's been a high level organization for a long time. It's are we ever going to get it right? And listen, the pace thing is still a little weird. The Kevin Warren thing definitely is weird. But if Ben Johnson can figure out Caleb Williams, none of that shit matters. A wise man told me a couple years ago with the Jets, when they were hitting on all these picks, he's like, John, if we hit on, of these 8 picks of a bunch of high-level players, if we hit on 7 of them and they become Pro Bowlers, All-Pros, sweet players, Garrett Wilson's, Breece Hall's, the left tackle, the Quinnen Williams, you name it, all the different players, the Sauce Gardner, but the quarterback's a whiff, we're all going to get fired. Yet if we hit on the quarterback and we whiff on all the other players, we will get extensions. And listen, it's not just that black and white and just that simple, but it kind of is. Now, clearly the Bears have good players, but if they hit on Caleb Williams, and they don't need him to be Mahomes, they don't need him to be Josh Allen, but if he can just be a playmaker and just be a pretty consistent player and do what Ben Johnson wants him to do, like Jared Goff did, Bears are going to be fine. And the Bears are going to have a guy that they can function with and win with. Then it comes, this football, it's a team game, how good your defense, how good your run game, things that are out of Caleb's control. But in terms of when this play is called on 3rd and 5 and that guy's open on that quick slant, you got to get rid of the ball on time because he will be open. I will scheme him open. But if he's not open, just in case, I will have this number 2 running over here that you got to get off him quickly and get over there, and he will be open. And that's what makes it so complicated because I had a scout tell me that a coach told him a couple years ago that you could take, let's say, 64 quarterbacks, the starters and the backups, every single guy, and take them in a room with McVay, Shanahan, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and they could all just talk football. And the overwhelming majority of that group of quarterbacks, just in terms of the speaking of the schematics of playing quarterback, they're all going to be on the same level. Then you go out to practice, and some of them will fall off. It's a little quick for them, but still a large percentage of that group will still look pretty good. Then you get to the games, especially the regular season games that are game planned, and you have to adjust on the fly. You're getting pass rush. You lose a offensive guard. Your backup tackles in, and all of a sudden there's a very small group that can operate in that environment. And that's what makes this so difficult, and that's what makes Caleb such a fascinating case study, because you want the arm's pretty elite. His athleticism is pretty high end. His arm's really explosive, and he's an accurate quarterback. And now can he play within the construct of this offense that we know works? And he did tonight. And like I said, there's good and there's bad, and then there's that. That was pretty exciting. That was enjoyable. as someone that, like, I think a lot of people are like, Middlekauff, you just hate the Bears. I don't care at all. I'm not emotional about any of this stuff. If he's good, great. I wish there 32 teams had 32 sweet quarterbacks because I'd rather have all these teams matter. Like we all know, we get, a couple months into the season, like there are 10 teams that are unwatchable. So I hope the Bears are good. That would make it fun. But that was a really, really good start, and I'm excited for every Chicago fan that has just seen a lot of shit and seen some rough times. It felt, I'm not trying to go overboard, but on the preseason version of like the Andy Dufresne moment, like, oh my God, this might be possible. We might be set free of this quarterback purgatory and have an offensive coach that knows what he's doing.